YBR.
Yay.
Hey guys. Alright. Let's see if we can get this working in some sort of reasonable way. Let me see what I don't have on right now. Game. There we go. This isn't the mech bay. You don't know what you're talking about. This is 100% the mech bay. Okay. So, I'm a little nervous about this, which is surprising. Since I'm not nervous about streaming, but I'm nervous about streaming Crowfall. This has been my addiction for the last little while. I've been spending a lot of time playing this. You guys are just getting Crowfall sounds in my mic, right? Not getting comms right now, my voice comms that I'm in. Chat? No comms? Okay, perfect. Alright, I will be streaming some of this with comms at some point. Especially when we're doing small man stuff. So the way it works in Crowfall at the moment, this is in kind of alpha beta, there are siege windows where the guilds get together and fight over like land, and then there's a lot of secondary objectives that are happening in the meantime, like right now. And this is essentially running around for secondary objectives. I probably will stream a lot of comms for secondary objectives, but I'm getting a channel set up for that on the guild that I run with for this. So basically, I want to do that, but I want to make sure that we have all the OPSEC secured for that, essentially, because this is a PvP MMO game, which means that a lot of the information that I give up directly hurts my team. So, hey Galvia, how's it going, man? But yeah, Crowfall stream number 1 on a Confessor at the moment. Confessor is kind of a fire mage kind of character. This is often known as Crowfall the running simulator, because I will be running a lot here for this. There's some issues with the mic. In terms of what? Intermittent feedback and noise. Seriously, someone was saying that a minute ago. I wonder if it's just, I got like fucking, with Discord open, and I wonder what's going on with that. Alright. Tell me if it's still there. Do you hear the tick 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 of the running though? Let me turn the game volume way up and you tell me. Comes and goes. Wow. We have the lovely element of being at a new location. Like now. That's exciting. I wonder what it is. Alright, we can do this. We can do the testing live. Alright. I'm gonna kill the mic. Tell me if it's still there. Alright, hold on, wait. We got a fight coming in here first. So let's get this fight first, and then I'll try to figure out what it is. It might be the stuff competing with Oh, we're apparently getting more behind us. It's good news. All of them. Fantastic. Okay. So these are other players. You can tell the guild tags at the top. And I will try to give a little bit more of a brief of what the hell my stuff does in a moment, but I need a second to breathe for that. Wasn't really expecting content here. See if we can clean this up first. Pressuring our healer. Lago is our healer. Okay. Okay, there's the target. It just came out. The ult stealths them. They're the same class I am here. So when they disappear like that, it's because of their ulting, which is a defensive cooldown they have. Alright, let's see if I can get more CCs out. I'll try to explain what's going on after, basically. Alright. I didn't hear the target call for who we're on. I can't ask right now because I haven't figured out what I'm going to do for comms for this. I think I'm going to get on Dreadlayer until I hear otherwise. There we go. That's the right call from them, finally. Need to get off that ice. Knock down here. Dreadless fine. So this is an ice color Frost Guard from them, which is a really, really tanky, kind of high damage, high AoE damage kind of class. Try to explain a bit more when I'm actually out of the fight. It's kind of nice to get a fight right at the start, but confusing as fuck probably to watch and hard for me to commentate. Alright, they actually look like they're out damaging our CC, or our out healing our damage, which means we need to get off this shit. I need to tell them to get off this shit too, so give me a second. Guys, get off the fucking ice area, right? I can CC a little bit more for this, but we're gonna lose this if we don't. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but it's not ultimately what we want to do here. CCing Furios. It's fine. Probably. Okay. So the problem with a stealth ult like this right now is that if they're tuned into my stream, stealth ult's really not going to get me anywhere, chat. So just a second, we just lost that engagement. Alright. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Wasn't quite ready for that. I'm broadcasting them, so I got that muted. Okay. Alright. Well, it's a good little welcome to Crowfall. So, we'll figure this out. No Plague Lord is rough? We had Plague Lord on like 2 other people in that group, I believe. But yeah, it's a group setup for this. Okay. Let's talk about what just happened. So, this is Crowfall. That's World PvP right there. Essentially, one of those groups was running a pack pig. Pack pig's a resource gathering mechanism. They basically bring those pigs either to refineries or they bring them to their forts and turn them in for resources. We're running around. I'm not actually sure what we're running around for because I just logged in basically to a guild group that was already out and about and ran into another group that hunted us down while that was happening. I might still be being chased. It could be happening. I'm actually trying to get to the temple, which I'm not even sure this is the right portal for. But if it is, then I can get a second to talk about what's happening and kind of walk through that. Yeah. Your stomach can't handle that content. Too much movement. Okay. All right. Yeah, 3 different guilds in the same spot. Did I plan this? I wish I could plan this. All right. So let's, it's got to be a bad cable, right? Because we streamed all day today. Actually, I don't know what the hell it is. I actually think it's probably an interaction. So if okay, chat, what I want you guys to do is next time we start hearing hissing from the mic, I want you to tell me. Because I'm going to try dropping out of Discord and seeing if it's like conflict with, like basically program conflict for the mic. Because that would make a lot of sense to me what's going on with that. No Plague Lord is rough. Yeah, Galvia, a little bit right there. It would have been certainly lovely to have Plague Lord there, but I wasn't playing particularly well. I was trying to handle like 5 things at once. Okay, so this is a Fire Mage, essentially. It is a range DPS class, mostly focused on single target, with some AoE disruption, essentially, is what this class does. The size of the game right now, I actually didn't look when I logged in, fluctuates quite a bit depending on this. This is a kind of limited time campaign that will be up for another 3 days, and then it will go down. There'll be a winner and a loser of this campaign as part of the selling point of this game. Yeah. Trying to think where to start with this for what's going on with this. That fight, which I imagine will be clipped there, and it's kind of a rough fight to get the first clip on since I'm not... I tend to do a lot of target calling, but I need to figure out exactly how I want to do that with the Discord whatnot. It's 30 players right now. It's pretty low. Feels kind of bad. Clicking now? Okay, thanks. So let's see what happens if I kill Discord. Tell me if it disappears. Tick, 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 huh? Okay, there's no fans running. There's a PC fan running, but it shouldn't be anything else. I wonder if there's anything else in the background for that. Too late, too slow? Okay, well, we can see if it happens again. I don't mind taking a minute to talk through the game. And you guys can, I guess the problem is if it doesn't happen again, we don't get that, if it was Discord, we don't get the confirmation from that. So let me try creaky floor. I guess I can watch my own VODs to check it out, and I don't mind spending the first stream to set it up. Phone's close to mics. I did have a phone on the desktop, but it shouldn't be that. Faction appears to be losing. It's popped up again, so while Discord wasn't there. That is frustrating. Okay, so we figured out the mic stuff from this morning. It actually was the... I don't think it's any of the hardware then, because we weren't getting that earlier today. Yeah, I wonder if I move... It's not the cables. I wonder if I move the mic back. Tell me if it causes it again. Just out of curiosity. Okay. All right, well, I'm going to open up Discord again. Just same deal tonight. We'll consider it troubleshooting for this. I want to know if it pops up again. Because I do want to actually be on Discord for this. I'm not going to be able to do much of anything. All right. All right, I guess I've already done an interface guide, so if you don't know what the hell is going on in a fight like that, I recommend watching the How to Watch Crowfall guide I put up on YouTube in January or something like that. Basically, there's a lot of information happening on the screen, but it's not actually particularly confusing information once you get a sense of what you're looking for. My group is on the left. The health bars are the green from my group members. At the top for me, green is my health, blue is my mana pool, and yellow is my stamina bar. The chicken wings beneath the stamina bar are my food meter. If you hit I forget what it is, I think it's 4 tickers of that on your food meter, you lose some of your regeneration stats. The rough idea of this particular campaign, let me see if I can show you. So I have it set up not to show that, but I can show it this way. Okay, so this is a campaign for this, right? This is a Dregs campaign. It consists of 3 zones, the temples, which are essentially city zones that everyone is unable to attack each other in, and then a series of zones called adventure zones where there's resources, and a series of zones called siege zones, which have the major building parcel that you can take over. There's minor building parcels in the other zones, the adventure zones, but essentially the guilds are fighting for a number of objectives, some of which are land-based and some of which are resource-based. Our guild in this particular campaign is taking this essentially as a harvesting campaign. We're not particularly interested in contesting land. We're just kind of playing relaxing. We had a pretty intense series of fights in the last campaign, and this is kind of an off campaign from us. So we're not trying super hard in terms of like taking lands or taking objectives, although I can maybe show you the objectives if I can remember where the hell that is. I think that's actually in the map, right? There's like seasonal objectives. Yeah. Okay. So in addition to having things like I guess I should maybe, because half the audience is going to be Crowfall viewers and half the audience is going to be my viewers. So I wonder if we could maybe I'll just do a tour of some of the holdings. You might have seen like the fortress looking thing in the fight where kind of when I ran away from the fight at the end of that, that would be a fort holding, which is kind of the smallest of the holdings that you can actually take and have walls and guards with and build up kind of thing for that. All right. So at the moment tonight, probably what I will be doing is running around with a small group of guys, like maybe 5, maybe 6 or 7, something like that, looking for some of the contestable resources. Some of these will be NPCs, so there'll be certain rare spawns that we're looking to kill and fight other people off. Some will be things like those pack pigs, which are a repeatable resource for that. Some would just be looking for PvPing other people and protecting our harvesters and attacking other people's harvesters. Everything in this game is crafted, essentially. Even the body that I'm on is a crafted body, right? It's a body that's created by a necromancer, and it gets better over time as you level up things like skill passives and whatnot. So this portion of this game, a lot of it is resource acquisition for that. All right, it's probably enough situational what's going on here. So I'm going to fill up my food ticker here. I'm going to hop back on Discord and see if we're reforming or refighting that. What happened there is we went to gank a pack pig, and we either got baited into that. There were two people running those pack bigs, and another group of 5 rode up behind us, or roughly 5. I'm not sure. I didn't actually get a count of the exact numbers. It's kind of really weird being in fights without being on comms, but I got to figure out what I'm going to do about broadcasting that, because I don't want to broadcast this like monologue to the channel where we're PvPing in. So I probably need to just bind a push to talk to Discord, which I hadn't really thought about for this somehow. All right. Ask questions if it's confusing. Tell me if you're like, Filthy, we know, we watch all the Crowfall streams. We're just here to snipe your channel and you don't need this kind of explanation. And let me know if there's specific things that are popping up that you guys would like to have explained, because it's weird to like play this. I played this almost a year now. It's weird to kind of need to situate it for new players on the fly. And I was expecting I'd have a couple minutes to talk you guys through things as I was running around the world, and we immediately got a fight, which is great, but not so great for trying to explain what the hell's going on. Is it nearing beta? I don't know what the current iteration is called, if it's called alpha or beta, but it's essentially beta. It's essentially getting to the point where they are looking to have a bit more players in, testing some of the performance stuff, and getting to see the mechanisms in play with a larger player base. It's the most playable it's been in the entire year I've been playing it, and it provides fairly regular content in the evening right now. Okay, it's technically alpha, Galvia is telling me. Galvia is another Crowfall streamer and a longtime buddy of mine, so he can definitely help answer these questions too. He's a bit more connected with the developers of this game than I am in terms of following that progress a lot longer and streaming it, etc. Okay. Is Crowd all better than WoW from a fun perspective? I enjoy PvP MMO comms and PvP MMO like camaraderie, so I found it actually more interesting to me, the guild stuff here, than I did in WoW, because for me WoW was a little bit, it didn't really matter a lot of the stuff that was happening. Maybe some of the hardcore raiding guilds would have had a different kind of perspective where everyone was trying to min-max everything and make that happen, but I really enjoyed the mentality of the players in this game as a whole. Someone's only played Eve. Yeah, you thought it was pretty easy to fight? Yeah, okay. Yeah, there'll be some things to talk about during that, but the Confessor itself is a fairly simple class, quite honestly. It's a fun class, it's a pretty powerful class, but it's a fairly simple class. It says alpha on the net graph. Yep, that's probably correct. Nice emote. Which one? Okay. All right, let me get the Discord stuff set up so I can get into that. I gotta, I guess, bind a key to unmute and mute, and I'm never gonna remember which one's active, and it's gonna be a clusterfuck till I get that kind of sorted. All right. Let's get in here. So I was a little worried it was program fighting over the mic, but it doesn't sound like it was, so that's good. So maybe it was just the phone. All right, and I need a hotkey setting in this. I have push to mute. It's gonna fuck up all my commander comm settings. Feels bad. So there's a season ticker down here in the bottom right, and fucking lore. You know the redeem a lore, Galvia, is you telling me about lore, right? That's so you don't get banned redeeming lore on my channel. That's not me telling you shit about lore. I'll tell you the mechanics of the game if you like, but I have a suspicion that you may know one or two of them all on your own. Maybe. Perfect. Can viewers join the guild I'm in? I think at the moment we're closing recruitment, but I certainly will think about what that means for you guys getting into the game. We're certainly more than willing. I'm more than willing to help non-guilded members get ahead in this game, find them homes, and otherwise talk. The problem is right now, with the number of players, our guild is probably the largest active guild right now. And if we continue to be this heavy in terms of players, we will essentially choke the content out as other stuff catches up. So I would love to be like, yeah, absolutely, come join my guild. I'd love to help you out with that. But I need to be cognizant of where kind of the recruitment on the server is. I didn't see which fucking zone they went to. I guess I should ask. Just a sec. Where are we? Thanks. Finding it surprisingly taxing doing all this at once, which is, I guess, unsurprising, but surprising to me. All right. There we go. That's better, Galvia. Okay. Is this RuneScape 4? Ah, you've spotted it. GOB Hungry, congratulations. So I guess at the moment, no Nord, but I can certainly help new players get situated in this game. And as long-term viewers of my channel, I'm more than happy to do that. Talk you through stuff, answer questions, etc. It's clearly Civ 7, not wrong. All right. Is this game still in development? Yes, it's an alpha. Just bought and downloaded the game last night. Oh, cool. Okay. Hey, Zuggy. Thanks to the 9 months, man. 9-month streak.
Filthy 7.
All right. Let me just confirm that they're calling targets on this one. Bear Dad, you're gonna do the calling in this, I hope. Thanks. Yeah, I'll figure it out what I'm gonna do about that later, but for tonight, that'd be really, really helpful. Cheers. Okay. You've tried too many streams, but if you're playing it off stream, this game is... The biggest issue, honestly, is the content. In the evenings, this is a very fun game to play. It can be quite dull the rest of the time. So, and it does require a little bit of player cooperation. Like, again, we just had a very, very intense campaign. Like the first, they call them dregs campaigns, and they are essentially these rotations of the day in the bottom right here. Like that length of time for an entire world to go up, people to do things like build forts and keeps and harvest resources and fight each other over land, and then it ends. And these are deliberately short-term things with the ability to win and lose them as part of the selling point of the game, right? It's trying to avoid the issue of, for example, one guild getting too big and taking over everything, right? There's subsets of campaigns. So we just had a very intense one of them, and this is kind of a recovery one, and a lot of people are playing it like that. Because we had actually, I thought, very high attendance, Galvia, for the last campaign. So... All right, these people here, see them like that? They wear the shield and they have the hammer. These are Clerics. This is the primary. There's basically 3 fairly playable healing classes right now. The Clerics are probably the most common healing class being played right now in the game. It's probably worth pointing them out. Healers are about 40% of the group comps at the moment, especially as you start scaling up into larger group sizes, like 10v10s, 15v15, etc. Right? As you start getting bigger, you tend to see a higher ratio, that kind of ratio get maintained pretty much all the way through it. Let's see. I think Bear Dad's on... I don't know if it's a Frost Guard or another Confessor. I think it's another Confessor. It's another Confessor. So on the same class as this class. You can see my action bars. Character and account don't reset, right? So this does passive style training in the same way that Eve does. So your account gets stronger over time. Your characters don't change except for things like gear or when you reroll characters. And again, bodies are constructed in this game. So as your crafters get better, your bodies get better, and your character gets better via rerolling into the new vessel, into the new body. The campaigns, when they end, you have a certain number of export slots. So basically, the stuff that you accumulated in this world, as this world dies and is closed out, you can export a small portion of that up to your export limit for that. And that's the goal of these. These are supposed to be, to some degree, resources that you acquire as your guild, for your guild. Yeah, bodies or ships in PvP is not too bad of an analogy, although unfortunately when bodies die, they do not degrade in any way. It's not like I can get body parts from killing an opponent, unfortunately. Thanks, Nobu. Good night. Okay. Alright, so we have contact again. So we're going back into this fight. Actually take my combat food this time. Okay. And it's the same group, which isn't surprising. These Mbari are NPCs. I'll try to talk through what my abilities do in a minute. That might help for some of the new players there. Okay. You can, it's full loot off bodies, although you can't currently, oops, what am I looking for here? I'm looking for this. I'll try to explain again in a second. So you can loot, I'll show you looting in a second. Might have to really keep fighting. I think they're dead. Why do I have to keep attacking? There we go. Alright. So this was his inventory. So if I were to die right now, I just picked up his head. If I were to die right now, everything in my inventory would be available to be looted, but none of the gear I have equipped. I'm pretty sure that corpse just procced a volatile when I cut it. That's funny. So it's a passive ability that that class has when it's alive. It shouldn't be doing that when it's dead, but that's kind of funny. All right, so I looted some bandages, popped some combat food. All right, so I guess I should walk through like the basic kind of things that this class does. So the primary thing this class spends a lot of time auto attacking. Auto attacks in this game are not equivalent. The first, second, and third auto attacks do different things. It's cycles of 3 for every class. My third one is just basically a bigger attack for that. This ability here, which I'll be casting pretty much on cooldown, is a line stun. Stuns in this game are kind of weird. Everyone has an ability called Retaliate, so if you get stunned, knocked down, or otherwise some sort of hard CC that disables you from inputting in your character, you get the option to retaliate as long as you have enough stamina. Retaliate just immediately removes whatever CC effects are on you, and it just costs you a global. Everything's done on global, so if you look at when I swing, all my things go on cooldown, it's because it's global locked, basically. So that's the kind of unit of measurement for like all your damage and all your timings and whatnot. These are NPCs. We're looking for specific NPCs called Chiefs and Kings, which are higher level and drop unique resources that we need to make better bodies, basically. Things like minor disciplines. Like this character, inside having the raw body of this character, I also have minor and major disciplines slotted into the character. What happened was probably the force barrier explosion. Could be. Hey, Bizra, how's it going? So Galvia, although, you know, a friend of mine and also, you know, a long-term, you know, friend of the channel, subscriber, etc., is also in a hostile guild. So is Bizra. So is Yanni. So these are players that I play with pretty much every single night and play against pretty much every single night. And this becomes one of the issues of streaming a game like this, because what do, right? Like, your opponents are going to be here. They're both supporting the stream, but they're also here, like, looking at it, being like, oh, okay, this is what Discient's running with. You know, how can we get a fight? How can we get content out of this? You know. So it's going to be a weird juggling act for this to try to keep that open. All right, anyway, so we're going through the abilities. Ability bar at the bottom. The class actually has more abilities than are slotted, but the part of the decision making when you build your character is which abilities you're using versus which abilities you're not, which ones you're actually going to give bar space or not. These are CCs again, the line stun. I have a second one that shoots out like little tornadoes. They're little tiny baby tornadoes, baby rage tornadoes. Those are very similar in effect. They're just harder to target. And that's kind of, you see that's like on a 23-second cooldown or something, so you can't spam that CC. Other than that, I have a big damage buff. C on my hotbar is a big damage buff. X is the 10-second finisher move. My class builds up a debuff on the target called Sin. Every 5 Sin stacks maxes out the damage I will do with my X button. What guild am I in now? This is Discient. The bird with the white and the gray with the bird is Discient, which is the group I'm a part of. Galvia and Bizra are in W, which is Winterblades, which has been pretty much the dominant guild throughout most of the testing process up to now. And if you look, neither of us are particularly well represented on the scoreboard right now. Corvus Citadel is up there, Transcendence is up there. I don't remember. I think this is Undead something. I guess I could check. Let's find out. Yell at me, chat, when I do things like this, right? Because I've set it up so to not show my position on the minimap, but when I look for things like, I might forget to turn it back. So please yell at me if I'm running around for long periods of time without that blocked out right now. UXA, that's right. Thanks. So I wanted to kind of show you guys the scoreboard, but maybe I'll try to do this in a moment. And YBR, I can't forget about them. That's true. YBR is second right now. So when you take certain things, I'll try to show you. There's 4 types, right? There's outposts, respawn outposts, forts, and keeps, I think, or something very similar to that you can take. Might be one more. I guess there's the towers and the little like little locations. I'll try to show you as we go through them. But essentially, there's small locations that you capture. You capture by killing the guards, standing in a circle, and then your guild owns it, quote unquote. And it generates a kind of like a victory point kind of thing over time the longer you own it. How much value it generates changes based on the season. So in the later stages of the campaign, things are more valuable to control and hold. But long periods of time holding something is going to accrue victory points for you. Undead Lords is UDL. Okay. There's a couple undead sounding guilds, and I always get them confused. And thankfully, like, one of the things I've done for this, since I was playing this game a lot while still streaming other things full time, is I've been very happy not to be in leadership roles. So I don't have to know what the fucking things are. I'm only guild diplomat when I'm warrioring in general chat, and mostly I just kill things that I'm told to kill, which is just fine for me. It's what I kind of like doing. The game looks nice. It's okay. They've been working on performance. It has some performance issues sometimes. You'll see my frame rate drop. Streaming seems okay with it right now. I haven't actually streamed it yet, although I've recorded a lot with it, so I wasn't expecting it to be particularly bad or great. But you'll see frame rate drop when we get into fights. The game looks okay. It's just had a recent update. Okay, so this is one of the holdings. Okay, we got Undergrowth, and this is them again. So I guess we're just gonna roll Erad's group all night. It feels bad. I guess we got rolled by them first. All right, so I'm gonna open with the stun. I'm gonna go after their squishy. In this case, Undergrowth again. It's the same targets as the same group. Again, the Confessor is right there, and I'm just gonna try to stay on them. So enemies block projectiles. So if I'm right on top of them, although I'm a ranged character and I have very good range, if they get another unit between me and my target, it will block all the shots being put into them. So I'm trying to be in a position where I can keep damage on them, even though they have a bunch of people around. I gotta ult here, talking too much as I'm doing this. And I think I'm actually playing with... I'll talk about that in a minute. Oops, what just happened to my CC? Not sure. Okay. Alright, down. Just randomly ulted for no reason. Doing a lot of AoE damage here. Kind of weird doing it on stream. I feel like my attention's split even further than it normally is when I'm doing this, but oh, I'll have to get over that. Okay. Poor Emed. Yeah, some people get reputations in the community. He has a reputation for being fairly antagonistic, so that guild tends to be a target that people like to jump. Yeah, Ripos, my poor healer. All right, so I guess what am I, like halfway through my abilities right now? Yeah. Hey Session, how's it going, man? Hey Quig. I see it's gonna be just like 90% players playing Crowfall. I guess that makes sense. We'll try to recruit some of my viewers in this. Did they announce a release date? I don't know that they have a release date to announce this game or not. So we're rezzing. We have a resurrect spell. It makes the guy weak for a minute. I think he's got a Death Shroud debuff kind of thing. And Resurrect's kind of poorly implemented at the moment. They, a couple patches ago, made it stick on your bar. I don't know if I like that or not, so a lot of people don't run it, but we're doing it for now. Combat is interactive enough as not. So this character's maybe, I'll show you the pit a little bit later tonight, which I like running around in, which is a lot more interactive combat from my perspective than the Confessor, even though it's a lot less impactful in fights generally. But another one to watch is, you can see in the part of this portion of my screen right here, this is Dive Roll, which is my dodge ability, which looks like that. Dodge pips are a resource that are worth looking at. It's the primary source of mobility. Different races have different lengths and cooldowns on their dodges, but it's your primary mode of kind of movement in fighting. That and sprinting. And you'll see my stamina drop. Stamina drops for one of two things. It's dropping because I'm retaliating, or it's dropping because I'm sprinting. And sprinting's a slightly faster way of moving. Do I have my affiliate link handy? No, I reached out to them again a couple days ago, Galvia, and was told the same thing I was told in January, which is we're not ready for wide-scale promotion of this game. Check back in a little while when we get to the next phase of stuff. So I don't have an affiliate link still. Pan told me I'd get one in January, but she's no longer with the company and I don't have one. Yeah, they don't want me promoting it, I guess. So consider this not promoting Crowfall. I'm just gonna promote my stream, I guess. Yeah, it wasn't just Pan. It's the new. I don't want to. I'm not trying to shit talk the company on this. Honestly, like they've been fine to me. It's just some weird like timing with their next push for a performance push. And I think the worry is essentially it gets promoted. The performance isn't incredible right now. People write the game off without giving it a chance. It's my rough understanding. It is slightly frustrating from my perspective, but oh well. Because I don't really care. Like, the affiliate link has some kickback to me, but really, I think the benefit of it mainly was it was a discount for my viewers. So if like you guys were like watching my stream, like, hey, this game looks fun, I want to get into it. Well, you have to buy it to get into it. I could have got you guys a discount. Kind of feels bad. But I believe Galvia and Session each have, who both stream the game, each have affiliate affiliate links, and I'm more than happy to promote those through them. If you guys, this is something you're interested in and would like to get a discount on that, that'd be nice. So, what race or class would I recommend for a starter? There's actually a fair amount of viable classes in this game right now. I guess I would want to ask you a couple more questions, Nord, about what type of thing do you like to play? Do you like to play melee or ranged? Do you like to play healer or DPS? Do you like to play support? Like, what are you trying to do? No, it doesn't feel bad at all to me, Galbi. I honestly, like, the biggest annoyance from my perspective was, well, shit, if I'm going to be showing this to a bunch of my viewers who haven't played this game, but like might look at it and go, shit, this is something I'm interested in, it'd be really nice to have an affiliate link for them. So I'm happy to push them that way. All right. So what do you guys want? A bit more of an explanation of what the Confessor does, or talk about something else? Like to play healer or support? You're always useful as a healer. Cleric or Earthkeeper. The Earthkeeper is a druid, and the healer is the cleric is a oh my god, what is it called? I think it's actually called. I think the cleric is the class, and there's a number of different. I think there's different subspecs of it essentially. But rolling one of those two primary healers is almost always going to make you very appealing to guilds picking up new players. You can roll alt. You can have six characters on every account. And the early creation of characters is really, really easy. These are the basic vessel that you can create just from the get-go. Like when you install the game, you're able to create a vessel. That vessel is a white vessel. It takes about 2 hours to level that vessel 0 to max level. So the cost of messing up something or testing out something is really low. It's just a small amount of time. Hey, Lou. Just tuned in and probably answers 100 times. Quick summary of what this game is. This is a PvP MMO. It's a throne. What do they call it? Oh my god, blanking on it. Throne something. The idea is basically you can win. So you conquer worlds, fight other guilds to do it, and then the campaign ends and the new campaign is created. So these wins, although meaningful and impactful, don't hose the game by making some guilds super dominant. Sounds awesome. It's the PvP MMO that I've been waiting for a very long time. The last PvP MMO that I really have enjoyed has been EVE Online, and I was playing that maybe 15 years ago. And this is the next one since EVE that has actually caught and held my interest for any length of time. It seems like a focused version of Guild War 2. The guild I'm in is a Guild War 2 guild that has come to Crowfall. So I assume it appeals to similar players, although I never got into that myself. Is there any class-oriented CC? I will be doing some serious guides talking about various classes that I'm familiar with, but basically every class, so the Confessor class has 3 subspecs, and these aren't talent-based. There's multiple different ways you can assign talents inside these subspecs, but essentially each class has 3 subspecs, one of which is considered the crowd control subspec. The problem is crowd control in this game is kind of weird. The devs do not want to be in a position where people are stun-locked to death. They don't want to encourage that kind of gameplay. So again, retaliate. I'll see if I can get knocked down by something. I wonder if these wolves knock down. Let's find out. Do you knock down, wolf? Cat. No, it doesn't look like this one down. All right, I'll find something that knocks down. I'll show you retaliate. But basically, the retaliate ability makes it so CC locking someone isn't a real thing. The basic reasons for CCing someone are interrupting a combo move. So, for example, this move here, again, my big knockdown. Now we have contact, so hold on a second. Interrupting that's a 3 global cooldown cast. If you interrupt it in the middle, I don't get to cast it. It just kind of fades, basically. Oryx knockdown. Okay, I could have tried that. All right, we have light contact over here. A bit spread out right now. But because of the way retaliate works, you're basically CCing to group CCs are okay, like if you're hitting a bunch of targets. Oh, it looks like it's just one guy. I probably won't even bother getting off the horse for this. Group CCs are decent. You're trading globals on a number of people, as well as disrupting their movement and disrupting their DPS output. To do that, that's okay. It kind of covers for your people. Interrupting combo abilities is certainly useful. And sometimes when you're chasing people, they lose a lot of ground. If you're running towards them, casting as you run, you stun them, they have to retaliate and stand back up kind of thing. But it's mostly, it's not good. It's not good not only because of the retaliate stuff, but also because you very quickly put people on immunity to CC by CCing them repeatedly, and just makes it kind of, it's not useless, but it's not as strong as you would think by reading some of these abilities. So there isn't really a CC spec on there. Is this an MMO? Yes, this is Crowfall. Is the only way to play? Is the only way to play to buy? Yes. There's quite a lot of streamers do giveaway streams fairly regularly. So if you're like, I don't want to invest money in this, there's a lot of streamers streaming Crowfall who are giving away copies of it. What triggers the world reset? See the timer at the bottom right where it says 3 days and 3 hours remaining? There's specific campaigns that are designed to last for a period of time. All of my gear and characters that I export out of the campaign will persist through it, and all of my characters will always persist, but gear eventually, you can't export all your gear, for example. See, Gavia? Yeah, all right. Mods, can you, for now, can I get a mod to, I assume I have mods left tonight, to make a command for the affiliate code? We'll go through Galvia's affiliate code until this company gets around to doing that. Thanks. Because if you want a discounted version of a discounted cost version of Crowfall, because you're like, hey, this looks really fun, I want to try it, that's the way to do it. So this is a fort that we're running around, by the way. So this is a plot of land. The plots of land that you can build forts on are restricted. In other words, they kind of come pre-spawned in a map, but there'll initially be nothing in this. I wonder if this is ours. Is this ours? No, it's Corvus's. So we can't get into that, but you can build these up. You have to invest time and resources to build these up. So this is kind of just like a bare, this is like a shell of a fort. They put walls up, but there aren't any guards on there. There probably aren't a lot of buildings in there. Are the server wipes just server wipes? No, it's not a server wipe that I'm talking about. Okay, we have players here. Looks like they're running pack picks again. Hawk is a healer, so it's not an ideal target, but oh well. Okay, there's another player back here. So if they get to the walls, they can zone through and we can't do anything about it. So here, CC is actually useful again to knock down. He's blocking. So when he puts his shield out like that, it's a huge personal damage modifier reduction. So he takes like, I think it's a 50% damage reduction. So we killed one got away. They're running these pigs. Oh, actually, it looks like he died. So they harvest these pigs. They basically go find them in a certain location in the forest. They spawn, and then they'll run into bring them to their fort where they have a special building that they can bring these pigs to that will give them resources. So what we're doing is we're ganking people as they harvest resources. That guy, yeah, so there's three levels of armor in this game. There's 3 levels of resources in this game, or excuse me, of armor in this game. I'm in leather. This character is a leather DPS class, so it's kind of glass candy. The player that we just did damage to, the 2 guys we killed, were both in plates. They're both healers in plates with shields. And shields give a, oh, that was a DPS cleric? Thanks. I didn't notice. Thanks, Galvia. But regardless, they're in plate with shields, which is as tanky as this game gets. When they stop, they give up having dodge to run an ability that's called block. That's a huge reduction in damage, essentially, from incoming damage when they hold that ability. Plate cleric using the DPS ult. Maybe. I don't know what the hell it was, quite honestly. I don't know why we're killing these pigs, but we are, so that's exciting. I think we're denying them the resources. What we could do, I guess I don't want to show that. I was going to say, we can take those pigs from them and run them to a refinery and get resources from it, but apparently we're probably too far away. What's the benefit of running lighter armor classes? Lighter armor class, so there's a couple benefits. First of all, some classes cannot run all 3 armor classes. There are class restrictions on what type of armor you can use. So that's the first thing. Apparently, I'm going to knock this guy down. He's going to die for it. Bye. So So there, a stun's useful. He jumped off the wall, and he's trying to run to the gate to get out. So the first thing is you might do it because your class is restricted to it. The second reason you might do it is each heavier level of armor reduces how much damage you do. So the lower levels of armor, like leather, has a highest damage modifier on it. If I were to open up my armor right now, this thing has a 5% damage bonus on it, and that affects my stats to do more damage than I would be able to if I was in mail. If I was in mail, that bonus would be 2.5, and if I was in plate, that bonus would be 0. So that's the first thing. The second thing is armor level. The armor level of a plate wielder is going to, or a plate wearer is going to be higher than that of leather. So they're going to have better mitigations to incoming damage. Okay. All right. Keep asking questions because it makes my streaming experience much easier if I can answer questions. This is really not the idea. Okay, we have contact. It's cool. I'm probably going to switch characters in a minute. So here a stun would actually be pretty useful. I think I missed it though. He was out of range when I did the second combo part of it. But we can just kill him. Yeah. How do you get better gear? It's their PvE aspect to it. There's a heavy crafting element to this game. So the short answer is the gear I just showed you dropped off we're standing by those like NPC centaurs. It dropped off centaurs somewhere basically. So the first tier of gear you get it from killing NPCs, often as you level, but later on as you kill the bigger ones, which are kind of like mini raid bosses that take 3 to 5 people to kill, the chiefs and kings, or 1 to 5 depending on what you're bringing. Those will drop slightly better gear. So this is probably chief loot. This is probably infected chief loot, basically. So after that will come crafted gear. And the crafting gear scales over time. This is a passive skill point game, so your stuff gets better over time. And initially, crafters start a little bit behind the War Tribes gear, and later they'll get better than the War Tribes gear, and later they'll get much, much better than the War Tribes gear. So all gear has durability, and as you're in combat, the durability of your gear ticks down. So all your gear is going to die. All gear in this game is not permanent, and you will be forced to replace that over and over again. If you die more, then you're going to replace it more. Do I have insight into crafting? Minimal. There's a lot of good crafting resources, and I can maybe link you to some of those if that's become something you're interested in. I know a little bit about the harvesting element, like collecting the resources for crafting, but I don't do a lot of crafting myself. Mostly because it's really... Ooh, what the fuck just happened there? Got a big lag spike. Oh, apparently it was for everybody. Thanks, Albacore. What's up? Appreciate it. How's player interaction? Is there an interfaction trade and other things? Yeah. So this is a PvP MMO with a fair amount of leeway in terms of what you can do. So the diplomacy and interaction between you and other guilds is totally up to you. So if your guild, for example, decides that you want to prioritize, and there's shops, there's vendors you can set up, player vendors and whatnot. So if your guild decides it wants to, for example, focus on maybe locking down chiefs and kings and trying to sell or trade those resources for something else, you could totally do that. Oh, it just changed to fall. That's what just happened. All right. So the victory conditions. So the victory oh, we just have contact again. Okay. Is this pay to play or free to play? It has pay to play. It's not per month cost. It is a one-time cost of buying the game. We just found Erad's group again. Feels bad. Okay. All right, let's buff up. Knocking down. I'm gonna get on Heartless. Someone else was called, but Heartless is almost dead. Let's see if we can finish. Restless, Heartless, not sure. So here, CC for disruption. It takes a bunch of globalists to do it. Probably ult here, a little bit far ahead, but I'm expecting them to run, not fight here. Okay, I'm actually getting a little low here, not getting a lot of heals at the moment. Got to come back for that. Getting pressured out. And trying to get their squishies down. They're not particularly squishy, these remaining characters, quite honestly. There are actually quite a few. There's Undergrowth. That's a better target. Got her. Okay. All right, maybe I should explain the Confessor ult. So Confessor ult is a large barrier that temporarily absorbs a bunch of incoming damage and invisibility, so they can't see me, and a small teleport, all of which is really powerful. And I get 2 of them every... It's not a time period thing so much as it is a resource thing. Maybe you can explain that if you guys don't know what that is. But okay. All right. So although I am glad they're showing up so we have some content for this, I wouldn't mind some other groups. And I love my Confessor. My Confessor is super fun to play, but I love it in larger group fights. I only brought it out right at this instant because I had it immediately available, and when I logged in, my group was being pressured by something. So I prefer to run around when I'm in real small stuff. The Confessor has no self-heals, doesn't have a lot of options for getting in and out of fights, and although it does good damage, it requires a lot of maintenance from the form of support. Like, I need a lot of healing to really be efficient on this class, unless... Well, this size of group anyways, because I'm almost always the first target in leather because I'm squishy and I do a lot of damage. So I like this class, but I don't love it in roaming like 5-man like this. So maybe I'll log out and switch to something else in a little bit. But okay, I'll tell you about parcels. Can you earn them in game as you can buy them in the store? Parcels are really not anything exciting at the moment. I'm not even sure what their eventual plans are for it. It's basically part of your... You can have a personal realm. It's called your EK. I think it is Eternal Kingdom, and you can build things in it like... vendor locations or like just plots of land, that kind of thing. At the moment, I don't see much use for them. There may be a use later that's more interesting. So Eva's Moongoo, relative safety during mining and mining, give you value from owning space. What does owning land have in Crowfall? Okay, so that's a good question compared to Eve, and that may be something I can talk about a little bit. Although I was never a big landowner in Eve, there is some benefits to owning land here. So again, things are temporary here. So building up a fort gives you a safe location. It gives you a location to rally from. It gives you a location to bring resources to, and it will give you bonuses to things like your crafting. You can build buildings in the campaigns that you cannot build out of the campaigns that will give you buffs to crafting so you can make better gear. So you want to own land so you can access those things. It also gives you access to some combat buffs that you couldn't get otherwise. And then you can build guards in them to help protect it. So basically, it's going to allow you to more efficiently harvest resources, have areas of kind of in your control, and then have areas where you can create better gear from. So that's kind of why you want land here. The downside of that is it's a lot of work to hold, not so much, well, it's a lot of PvP to hold land, and it's a lot of farming work in terms of harvesting to get the resources to build this. All these buildings have been built. Like, these walls were built. If there's buildings in there, and I can't actually tell from this position, it looks like they have a couple buildings in there, have been built up by their players running pigs or harvesting trees or harvesting minerals or, you know, knocking down rocks or stuff like this to build those up. All the stuff that crafters build also takes a ton of resources. So there's a maintenance cost to running around and PvPing. Something that helps factions balance. Quitting one faction to dominate, heavily getting stronger and stronger. There's the goal for them, I believe, is, well, first of all, it's a PvP MMO with no set factions. This is guild v guild, so every guild is another faction here. So what happens is, if one guild is getting pushed around because one guild's getting too big, almost inevitably the rest of the other guilds start responding to that, either by directly allying or more likely by pushing multiple objectives at the same time, by harassing that guild, etc. There's also some scoring mechanics that are better for smaller guilds and bigger guilds. Basically, there are like points per player kind of mechanics. So if you have a shit ton of players in your guild, those players have to be really busting ass to even remotely compete with like the smaller guilds doing that same thing. And then there's some stuff like, if you are a big group with lots of holdings, you have lots of vulnerability. And the way that the building timers work right now, it's a little bit like Shadowbane Bane trees, or Banes kind of. Like, buildings are not vulnerable all the time. There's certain windows in which they're vulnerable. So if you have a bunch of holdings and the window comes up, well, you can only be in one place at a time. And if you have enough people, maybe that's not a big deal. But if the whole server is attacking you at different locations, you're going to lose stuff to that. All right, see you, Gabby. Oh, is GOB hungry? Actually hungry? I wondered. All right, let's see if there's other questions about that. Goron? I don't know what a Goron is. What's a Goron? It has its there. So the other thing about this game right now is it's a fairly number sensitive game. So they're gonna have to do some stuff for that right now. If we as a group of 5 run into a group of 7, we're at a pretty big disadvantage. We run into a group of 10, we're almost always going to lose. Not 100% of the time, but the vast majority of the time we're going to lose. Even if they're worse players than us, even if they're not quite as geared. There's a lot of incremental things that can happen. Maybe much later in the crafting cycle, you can punch up a little bit more if you heavily outgear your opponents. But even that's kind of questionable. I didn't play Guild Wars, Ravon. And there are, I think that's, it's hard to say, like, does that disparity become bigger or smaller at larger numbers? It's a harder thing to answer, right? Because it's like the percentage increase. Like when you're fighting 5 to 10, they're double your numbers, right? It's 100% increase. When you're fighting 20 to 30, they're only a 50% increase, even though I guess the actual comparison would be like 25 to 30, right? The +5 is less meaningful there, and group tactics do matter, but I'm not sure there's such a diversity in group tactics right now that you can punch up easily like that. Now, maybe. We occasionally see very highly coordinated players do very well. Like highly coordinated guilds tend to win their PvP fights at equal or slightly outnumbered numbers, but you can still blob a big guild down. That still happens. AoE in this game is existent, but it tends to be target capped. And although there are some kind of big explosion style, like instant damage AoEs, there's not a ton of them, and they kind of go up and down in how useful they are based on the kind of moment to moment balance of the patches and other classes right now. How is the building? Does it feel unique to the area you build, or is it always the same building every time? It depends on your objectives, and it's really hard to answer that right now because they've just recently. Hold on a second. Let me just see what Discord's saying. Okay, let me try to answer that again. How's the building? Does it feel unique? There's each location that you can build in, which are the fort and keep locations, has more things you might want to build than you can possibly build in it because it has a limited number of basically building slots in it. So you are making decisions based on what your objectives are. Each campaign, it depends. If you do 5 campaigns in a row where your goal is just to harvest like wood or something, you're going to build the same buildings. But we tend to build buildings based on our need. We'll build PvP buildings on areas that we expect to be contested, so things that give us more guards or stronger guilds or more buffs. We'll build things like caravansseries for when we're trying to collect resources so we can bring pack pigs to them, or we'll build other buildings that buff the type of harvesting we're trying to do. The guild I'm in has an Econ Team, and the Econ Team is essentially in charge of what's important from the economy perspective in this particular campaign. How large do fights get? I don't know how big they're supposed to be eventually. Even now with the really small population, we get huge fights. Like, I gotta think. So we had a 25v60 the other night, I think it was. Something very similar to that in numbers. Can't remember. Each side tends to distort a little bit of what they have, so it's sometimes a little bit tough to get an exact count. But that was still okay. The performance wasn't terrible for me on that. I know it's supposed to get bigger, and I know that there's a big performance patch in the works coming soon, TM. So, all right. Last campaign, we had 121. Yep. Does the meta is strict and not leave space for creativity? They haven't done a balance pass on the classes in a while, and they've introduced a new class that's very strong, the Frost Scholar, or Frost Weaver. I can't remember exactly what the class is called. All I know is the individual moments of it, which are things like Frost Guard and Ice Weaver. But the class is pretty damn good, and it hasn't really been adjusted for the other classes. We're hoping for a balance pass in the near future. There are a lot of viable classes right now, but there are definitely a lot of classes that are not particularly viable right now. And in addition to that, melee right now is in not particularly great shape. So, and that may be an issue with the gear, the passive training, and the classes available to play right now. So yes, there are a fair number of classes viable, but not everything is viable. You can build a totally fucking dead character in this game, which sucks. I agree with not a ton of creativity, but I think there's still a fair amount of variance in what you can build and how you construct it. Like, I build my group fighting characters like this one a lot different than I build my individual like solo or 5-man gang stuff, right? So I'm running around on this character, which is for me, like, I've been playing this Confessor for a year, so it's like brain dead for me when I play it. But it doesn't have to be that way. This is a group fight as part of a... So I do a lot of the theory crafting for my guild in terms of some of the building. And like this piece, this piece, my confessor, this piece, me as an individual member of my guild, this is a piece that's designed for large group fights. All right. How's running a guild? I don't run a guild. I am part of a guild, thankfully, that someone else is running. Running a guild is a lot of work. There's a lot of elements in this game. Diplomacy eats a large portion of that, and economy eats a large portion of that. So if you're interested in running a guild yourself, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to have to put a lot of work into it, and you're probably going to want to delegate. And as you get bigger, you're going to need even more delegation and more people for that. Healing's decent. Healers are super valuable in this game. There's a lot of healers needed, and there's a couple different types of healers to be. Some of them are pretty neat. Clerics are kind of the most. There's not. What do they call it? There's not good target. So there's no targeting in this game, right? That's the first thing, right? So if you're a healer who's used to like clicking on like the icon of the guy in your group and trying to heal, you can't do that in this game. And there are targeted skills that can miss for healing. There's also a lot of AoE healing in this game, and a lot of and not a lot of like direct big heals on people that are up all the time kind of thing. So healing's a little different than. There's a couple of cool mechanics. I really like the Earthkeeper mechanic, which is the Druid healer, which places they place a bunch of orbs down, and the orbs require the player who wants to be healed to pick them up. But it has, a lot of unique things with that. Like some of the orbs give mana, and like location matters for that. How you place them matters for that. The mobility matters for that. It has an ability where it can buff other players to do damage. It's a lot of cool things. I like some of the healers in this game. Am I a drill sergeant for my guild? I do a lot of target calling and fights. So I organize a lot of small gang roaming stuff. Like I'm running around on my own, or a couple people are on. We're running around like that, like fives and whatnot. I do a lot of that. And I do a lot of target calling in the larger fights. I don't know how that's going to work with this. I might either stop target calling in large fights because I'm doing this, chatting with you guys 100% of the time, or I might end up trying to do that where I for like the siege hour, for example, which is coming up in a little bit here. If I do siege hour stuff, maybe I'll still target call, and I can show you guys what that looks like. And it is my wife tells me she calls it yelly time. She's like, is it yelly time? Because I'll be like sitting there like yelling. And from her perspective, where she doesn't hear the target, she doesn't understand. She doesn't play the game. So for her, it's just like, I'll yell something like, "Get on muffins," and she'll be like, "Why are you just yelling pastries at thin air?" Type of deal. So I don't know. I like target calling, and it's kind of amusing the from another perspective watching it. But I like it. I have a lot of fun with that. It's a target calling in this game is a bit of experience, and it's a bit of just like real-time processing, positioning of the opponents, the classes they are, and your positioning, right? So you're trying to essentially match up the best projection of your DPS with the squishiest and most out of position target the opponent has, because you can this game, it tends to snowball in fights. The team that can quickly and efficiently run out a couple kills starts multiplying that advantage over time, basically. All right, sounds a lot like Shadowbane before cheating. Shadowbane and Eve, Shadowbane, Eve, and Asheron's Call. And Asheron's Call probably was just my first MMO, really, so I just have nostalgia for that. But Shadowbane and Eve are probably my all-time favorite PvP game, PvP MMOs before this, particularly Eve, but a little bit of Shadowbane. So decent melee DPS options in this game. There are later, there's not now. And that, as I said, that might be because we're needing a balance pass. It might be because the addition of this new class, which is an AoE-centric caster class that's very tanky and kind of shits all over melee. And it may just be because of where the passive training is in terms of defensive gear and crafting gear, and defensives aren't there. But right now, melee's in pretty rough shape. I wonder what we just did here. Gotta figure out why my guild just disappeared. My team just disappeared. Problem is I'm having trouble parsing Discord in this. ETA to siege time. Let's find out. So I'm in the temple, so I can show you this shit now without fucking in my position over here. Okay, so let's talk about this. All right. So there's a siege schedule. At the moment, I believe I think it's 8:30 my time, 9:30 Central. So it's an hour and a half from now is siege time, and you can see which holdings are vulnerable during that time. Thank you, Billy. Appreciate that. It's decent melee. How easy to identify enemy threats? So you guys probably noticed it if you're watching a little bit there. It's pretty easy as a longtime player to get a sense of your opponent's class, because each class has a kind of pretty noticeable combination of weapon and armor, right? You see you see a elf running around in pajamas with a fucking book, you know it's a confessor. And you know it's a DPS confessor, like one of the non-plate spec. And there's 2 of them. I don't think I could tell this class. So this particular spec is a, the fuck is this one? This is the DPS spec. So this is, they just changed the name on me. So I guess it's an Inquisitor now. No, it's a Fanatic. This is a Fanatic, but I couldn't tell a Fanatic from an Inquisitor just by looking at them because they have the same armor and the same weapon. But I could tell the 3rd class of Confessor, which is a Sanctifier, which wears plate. I could tell that from looking at it. Now, like, we killed those Clerics earlier, and one of those Clerics, according to Galvia, was a DPS Cleric. That's a radical. There's not a lot of people playing the DPS Clerics. You don't see them very often, and I doubt I could tell a DPS Cleric from a Healer Cleric just from looking at it. I would have to see certain abilities, and I'd have to be watching for those abilities. So it's easy to tell the basics of a class, but not always easy to tell some of the subspecs or some of the specifics. And it's harder when, like, for example, guys who can wear plate, classes that can wear plate, can also wear leather or mail. So if someone is running a build where they are deliberately taking less of their defensive abilities, like not wearing plate, but wearing leather for damage, then I might be thrown off by what the class is, especially initially. All right, let's see. Do resource grinders with lots of free hours give the guild a large advantage? Yes, Castor. There's a huge advantage to having very active harvesters. Are summoner or pets using... There's no summoner or pet classes in the game at the moment. Yeah, you're not behind. You're not very behind at all coming in now. And there's going to be... There's at least guaranteed 1 more wipe before release. And I think it might be 2 more wipes before release. Like full wipe, account wipes. So... they're very likely to see that happen. Because again, it's an alpha, right? Alright, so let me just junk this shit that's in my inventory. This is just garbage picking up off other people. Got some skulls, a little bit of food, some garbage. Okay. Maybe too early for this conversation. Is botting a problem? How easy would it be to bot? Well, it's PvP world. If you're botting, you're gonna get killed and all like that. I don't know. You might be able to build some sort of like kind of like a stealther bot of some sort, but I'm not real familiar with it. It hasn't been a problem that I've seen at all yet. But that doesn't mean it won't be soon or couldn't be. All right. So I'm gonna switch characters, I think. Hey, I gotta figure out what the fuck everyone's doing. So give me a second to just catch up on Discord for what's going on here. Just a second. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's figure out what's going on here. Is there an US and EU server? There is right now an US and an EU. Should I unmute myself? No, I didn't. Okay. Yes, there are to both. Would giving guilds access to automated resource gathering options be heretical? Yes. Yes, it would be fucking heretical. Everything's contested in this game, and I don't want to change that. I like the fact that I can gank their resource harvesters and steal the stuff they've been harvesting and then bring it to my guild. So lag is bad if you try a US server from EU and vice versa. When I've gone over to EU server, I notice ping differences, but it hasn't been majorly, like, it hasn't been bad yet. Yeah. Bit of a mixed bag. All right, I'm gonna switch to, I'm gonna figure out if people are still roaming. Let me just actually find out some stuff. Are we still roaming anywhere? What's the size of what we're bringing? I won't repeat that, obviously. Okay, you have room still? Okay. I think I'm going to switch over to the pit for a little bit here just to give some diversity of what's going on. Come back to the Confessor for Siege or something. Alright. Let's do that. Oh. Okay. And this is a big test for this, right? It's a test for streaming the game. It's a test for, can I figure out a way to make this both still enjoyable for me to play as a player without making it a nightmare to stream, something that gives up so much information, but as well as can I make it engaging, where can I keep up with comms while still talking to you guys and still making it actually happen. So we'll see. All right. I'll get on my pit. Andrew kind of well. A lot of names in here that I know, huh? Okay. How have I been? Busy. Busy. Yeah, that's kind of cool. All right. So we're going to come in on my... Oh, I guess I should say, okay, so you guys were asking about it a little bit for the new players here. So this is God's Reach. God's Reach is a new player experience. It's where you can level characters. It's not actually the most efficient way to level characters right now, but you can level. This is a PvE zone essentially, and it's a newbie zone. There's not a lot of good resources in there. All people are doing, and people cannot kill each other in there. So that's kind of one of the locations that people as new players are going to start on. They're not going to be there long. Once you're level 15, you can go into the campaigns, and once you're 30, you're done leveling. It takes about 2 hours to level 1 to 30, maybe a little bit longer as a new player because you don't quite know what you're doing. But after that, what you're actually looking at is these are campaigns. And the campaigns are posted, and there's going to be a limited, like you can see right here, the EU versus NA campaign. EU is entirely dead at this stage tonight. No surprise there. We're at 46 on the NA campaign right now. These campaigns have limited shelf lives deliberately, right? They're built to have 4 seasons that progress in a certain amount of time. Right now, they're running pretty quick campaigns. I think the goal, it's variable, right? They're going to have different campaigns at different lengths once the game launches, but for now, they're doing a lot of short ones. This gives us, it's a little draining on the players right now because it means you have to do a lot of resource harvesting very rapidly to build stuff up, etc. But it means we have content right now, which is fun. All right. Is the game close to releasing? Close to beta. It's currently alpha, I guess. But anyways, so we're going to go into the campaign. I maybe should have showed you the vault there as well. We'll get to that another time, I guess. Got a new guy interested in the game? Cool. Yeah, I am excited about it, Full Moons. I'm excited about it. I want to show you guys Siege Hour. I was debating where to start this. Like, I don't know how many hours a night I'm going to do with Crowfall. I'm playing a lot of it right now, so streaming it makes a lot of sense from the perspective of, well, what the hell am I going to be doing with my, I should be streaming stuff that I'm playing. I always feel guilty when I don't. But there is some question of, actually, what the fuck am I? Hold on. I guess I don't need to recall when I'm right next to a temple. Fine. Okay. Yes, exactly. I need my open world PvP as well, RX Briggs, and I haven't been excited for a PvP MMO in a long time. Now, granted, I took a break because I went to graduate school and you can't play involved MMOs while you're doing something like that, or at least I couldn't. I don't have good enough time management. But for now, chat, and remember, chat, yell at me. If I spend long periods of time on that screen, it means I've forgotten that I haven't hooked back to the main one. Okay, so this is a pit fighter. It is a very tanky melee dude who wears plate and has a lot of self-healing cooldowns. It's almost always the last target because it's a really bad first target. And you accomplish essentially nothing in your group at all. I love it. It's a lot of fun. I wouldn't recommend playing very many of them, but it's a nice kind of like quasi-solo roamer or like small group roamer because you can be in anyone's group because you don't do anything and no one cares about killing you. So you're equally useless in all groups is what I'm trying to say. Like the Confessor is useless in some small groups, but very good in other small groups. The Pit, equally useless. I can group with anyone, no problems at all. So I really like that about this class. It's probably the #1 redeeming feature. What?
You have returned.
Yep, no problem. No, I don't need a healer. That's fine. The biggest issue is going to be just following you guys as I'm splitting my attention. I'll get better at that as I stream this more. So, cool. That's sad. Does he not have CC? CC is not really a thing in this game. It's not as bad as that. Like the goal that when you design a pit fighter, your goal is to make it a lose-lose for the opponent, right? You want to make it so if they ignore you, they get punished, and if they focus you, they get punished. It's kind of maybe punish is too strong of a word, and what in reality what happens, but I do enough damage that I do annoy healers to some degree. I run an aura around me. One of my major disciplines runs Troubadour. Troubadour is an aura that makes all of my allies hit harder and targets in my aura. And I run other abilities like that. I run a group buff ability that makes my friendlies who are doing physical damage in my group do more damage. I don't take healing because I'm a pit fighter, so essentially I have enough self-healing that I really don't need a lot of time or effort from the healers, and I do enough pressure that I do pressure people if I'm left if they ignore me entirely, I will pressure units. It's just all of this is kind of medium at best impact on a group, right? It's kind of how I use this character. I use it as a fairly fairly what's the word I'm looking for? Opposite of specialist. Fairly generalist character. So yes, exactly. There's a lot of opportunity costs when a player is on, if especially one pit. Maybe I don't mind one pit for like a group of like 20 is like, if maybe 25 if I'm talking about actually building groups, and even that I don't need it to be a pit. I want a Troubadour in a large group of players, but solo or like small gang, it's just like I want to have something that I can get on when I'm alone and want to do something, and I can do that. So pit is great. I don't want to go as far as pit is great. Pit is fun. Pit is great fun. How's that? That's my compromise with you. What's my overall opinion of Crowfall, the never-ending developed game? Well, I'm streaming it and playing it a lot, so I must like it to some degree. I hope it comes out as well as it could. It has a lot of potential. Shame it's not a centaur. Oh no, I'm running half giant. Half giant's the master race. The race that is most powerful as the solo pit fighter. Absolutely is. Absolutely. I think centaur is a better group pit fighter, 100%. This is not a group character. Not really. It's designed for like 1 to 3 man stuff, where it's much better than the pit. Or the centaur. Yeah. So maybe I can talk about some of that while I'm thinking about it. So half giant pit, right? So lots of stats. So this race in particular gets a big strength boost and con boost. You're trying to make, remember, your trade-off is you're trying to make it on the pit fighter. You're trying to make it a, what's the matter? Oh, they want to give me frost armor. Do I not rate sturdy? You over. Yeah, sturdy. No, I'm not running sturdy on my pit fighter. I am sturdy got massively nerfed, and I wouldn't run it anyways. I'll tell you my pit fighter build if you want. I guess I'm going to be streaming it. So I run Troubadour, Shield Breaker, Uniform Plate, Furious, and Burning Hatred are what I run on my pit fighter. And if you're not familiar with the game, these ones, this is the AO, this is the aura ability, this is the group buff ability, and then these ones are this is a self-healing. Kind of, it's really weak self-healing, but it triggers a damage ability when I interact with it. Puts an orb down. There'll be little blue glowing fires that pop up. That's Burning Hatred. Furious is a damage buff when I have enough rage. Rage is the class resource, kind of like Warrior Rage and WoW. It's a red bar that I use to hit people with, and generates by being hit or hitting people. And then Uniform Plate's another attack power buff. So you probably get more change out of sparring or weapon. No, I wouldn't. Are we gonna? You want? All right, Wilbur. Let's sit down and have this debate. You ready? Here's why weapon efficiency. Weapon efficiency is no good for us. The pit fighter as a class has 24 weapon efficiency built into its talent tree. Weapon efficiency caps at 25. So taking another rune to help with that doesn't do shit for me. How about sparring? Why isn't sparring better? The problem with sparring in small gang pit fighter right now, in particular with the prevalence of guinea duelists out there, is the pit fighter spends most of its time running at opponents who are not standing in melee with it. Which means that my uptime on targets is super low. Something like 20% of my, probably have about 20% uptime on targets and 80% chasing them or something similar to that. Maybe it's like 30, 70 or whatever it is. What this means is I'm not auto attacking a lot. I tend to, when I get in range with the target, I tend to dump whatever damage cooldowns I have available, and sparring doesn't impact basic the ability damage that your unit does. It only impacts basic attack damage. So I don't agree with that at all. I think the way the meta is right now, I want as much damage out of the limited amount of time I have with them as humanly possible, and that's not buffing my auto attack damage. All right. I had a sub from Psycho. Thanks, Psycho. All right. The bot got you hungry. All right. All right. Why aren't my FWs giving you rage? FWs. Frostweavers? You play group builds? Yeah, for sure. And I would build this differently if this was a group build. This is what I was talking about with the stream earlier, right? Like what I like about when someone was asking about how are the build diversity in this game, does it allow for creativity? And my answer then, and which I maintain, is it depends on what you're trying to do. This is the great thing about vessels. Vessels, the fact that there's necromancy in this game and you craft the vessels you're building, and all of the things like majors and minors are modular. Like you're gonna put 3 minors and 2 majors on every body, or 4 minors if you have the ability to do it. It means you can build things that would be really, really specialized. Here, I'm specialized in watching my group die. It's one of the things I like most about the Pit Fighter, is I get to get good footage of each and every one of my guildmates dying. And then I get to die. So, but the point being that this is built not for group fighting particularly. This is more of a 1 to 3 man stuff, right? I go to my Confessor when I want to play large group fights because I like my Confessor more in large group fights than I like my Pit. Can I attack as a Pit Fighter? I can, but I choose not to. I am role-playing a pacifist Pit Fighter. I use this club mostly for gardening. Your greatest strength is I die last. No, that's my greatest satisfaction. My greatest strength is I occasionally get in the way of particle effects from that my opponents are casting towards my people. Because you body block in this game, right? So because like ranged attacks have to go through things, if I get in the way, I actually do eat damage, for example. Yeah. Yeah, hungry nails what I'm maybe trying to say here, which is you're trying to make a damned if you do, damned if you don't with the Pit Fighter thing, right? Like I'm trying to be impactful enough that not focusing me is an issue, but I also want a Pit where if you focus me, it's a mistake. Plague Lord on a Pit is great. Yeah, I could see that being okay. The biggest issue with Plague Lord on a Pit for me is the Pit has very little. The bar space is really heavy on a Pit. So these are major disciplines. For those of you who haven't played this game before, major disciplines add a number of things. Like this one here gives me 2 passive abilities, and then I have 4 actives that I can choose from. But I have to get them on my bar to cast these actives. And the problem with the Pit Fighter is it basically has, on the bar that allows 8 abilities, 6 of them are basically locked in stone. Now, you can maybe argue in the solo Pit that like the solo Pit, maybe only 5 of them are locked in stone, but you really can't get rid of those. They're just too core to how the Pit plays. So what this means is when you're picking up major disciplines, you can't take major disciplines that have a lot of active abilities because you just can't use them. You don't have bar space to do it. And Plague Lord's one of those ones where it's okay if you only have 1 bar spot. Like the Plague Lord Major is going to let you do something like debuff a target, so it's not going to get as much healing. The auto attack off the support power debuff is okay on like anti-healers, but ideally you'd like 2 bar spots to feed to Plague Lord if you could, ideally. And maybe even 3, honestly. The third one, Shrivel, is actually pretty useful too. Do you have any contacts at Crowfall? The company that develops it is not called Crowfall. But no, I don't have any contacts in that game. You've got massive cleave on your bar, not needed. We're gonna talk about the difference between solo and group if you want to talk about that, right? Massive cleave is probably my best damaging ability outside of Ren Stomp, and Ren Stomp is both a 2-part ability and very easily dodged. And it's on a 10-second cooldown. What this means is when I'm inevitably spending all of my time chasing duelists, actually Massive Cleave becomes pretty much your best ability. So it's on my bar. I think I've tried it. I built a Pit Fighter specifically to try to take advantage of removing Massive Cleave from my bar and doing things like, just hurl batting and whatnot. But the way that the damage interactions work with Massive Cleave being crushing but hurl bat being piercing, it just was bad. It just didn't do anything. Like the ability to pressure enough that they have to do something about me was lost when I took that off my bar. No shit. That's cool, Kevin. Hey, Elhor. Do you know if this will be a monthly subscription when it's released? I'm not actually sure, man. I don't think it's intended to be that way, but there was some talk about like a premium subscription, but I don't know what that means even more. At the moment, like I believe the premium subscription is the identical to not. I guess you'd be better asking other community members with that. I'm not real worried about it one way or the other. I'll pay a small subscription fee if it ends up being subscription. I'll be happy to play it free to play if it's free to play after buying it. I don't really mind. When you log in, what's your normal daily go? How do you gear up PvE? You gear up initially from PvE and then later from crafters. So a lot of the early game is of fighting over gear, for example. And there's some campaigns that are zero import campaigns where like your character logs in naked, and the first night is entire groups of naked people running around killing the war tribes, trying to get even basic gear off that. By solo, do I mean 1v1 and 1vx? Yeah, I do. I tend to do a lot of 1vx and also a lot of like 3v, whatever shows up. Fresh wipes sound extremely fun. Yes and no. We've had a lot of them in this development cycle overall, and I haven't even been playing long enough to really hear a lot of them. I find it a little bit boring with the passives. I don't really love their passive skill training right now. So, should we let there? I just got offered a kill. All right, we're gonna run this guy down real quick. Any class have access to long-term invisibility? Yes, assassins and pretty much there's an entire race that has. Okay, just why am I stuck on my mount? I'm not sure. I guess I could walk through what this class does if you want. All right, let me see if I can answer. Tell me, guys, if it'd be useful to walk through what this class does. I'm happy to do it for new players if you don't know what this class does. Assassin and Duelist are the stealth classes. Yeah, kind of. A lot of classes utilize partial stealth, and one race has a stealth tray regardless of what class you're playing on that race. But the major stealthers are Assassins and Duelists. Yep. Okay. All right, Slipper Warfare. Yeah, I do like fresh wipes, but I also really like the customization I get once I can start crafting gear and crafting bodies, right? Like I can then say, like, if I understand the mechanics of my class, I can build super specialized or super efficient builds. I can look at this and say, well, if I put more time and effort into thinking about this, or probably not, I probably just end up breaking even compared to other people. But the idea being essentially that if you spend the time and resources to spec your character well, you get to do kind of extreme builds with that because you have access to how your body's so. So if you look at this character has things like, you know, this is, you can't see it because this is currently bugged right now, but that says strength, that says dex, that says int, that says spirit, and that says con. All of those are customizable to some part when my bodies are built. So I can tell the necromancer, hey, I'm really trying to build some bizarre barrier build where I need constitution. Can you focus constitution on the body instead of strength, for example? And that's pretty cool. And I can do something like, okay, well, this stage of the game, only X, Y, and Z are available. And because only X, Y, and Z are available, that means this type of combat's going to be better. Like right now, PvP, the melee is pretty garbage right now. So in general, I'm stuck on a fucking rock right now. Feels bad. Just a second, as I desperately try to find the rest of my group. Rip. Okay, there they are. I think I followed the wrong guy. I think I accidentally followed a assassin solo farming. Let's find out where I was. Having trouble multitasking apparently. Okay. Let's see. Do I have a blue vessel? This is a green vessel. Okay. Oh no, hungry. I farmed up a green vessel for my pit. I wish I could get out of combat right now, but I'm combat locked from that fucking... That's a new enemy type they added recently, and it's the most annoying fucking unit ever. Because it pulls you, like repeatedly slows you, and it does it like without moving from a million miles away, and it grunts. And the grunting is so annoying because like part of how you play this game is you listen. You listen for your opponents. You like hear them doing PvE things. And all I hear when I run around the woods for this is the grunting. All right, 2 seconds. Let me find out where the fuck my team went. Apparently can't multitask. All right, I admit it. I may suck more at multitasking than I thought. Where the hell did you guys end up? Thanks. Okay. Right now, early game, reasonably grindy. Yeah, it depends what you're trying to do. No, I just ran through more bugbears, so I've made a terrible mistake. My life decisions are questionable. Please excuse and apologize for me. All right, how long before I'm hooked? You see that guy shooting me from back there with the fucking tentacle? Fucking thing. Okay. Different parts are different answers to that, basically. The game is as grindy as you want. There's no upwards value limit in how much your guild can benefit from you basically farming resources. Your efficiency at doing that changes as your passive training changes and as your specialization increases, right? But how grindy is it to get to the basic playable element? It takes about 2 hours to level a white vessel. Right now, white vessels are competitive. So right now, it's about 2 hours to be playable. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Crafting is a big grind to get resources for that. But a lot of the crafting is variable. You like, it's another one of these deals where basic crafting resources and basic crafted gear becomes very good relatively quickly. But the highest tier stuff is not that much better than the slightly lower tier stuff, but is vastly more expensive in terms of farming. So I think there's 5 qualities of stuff. So like, for example, I can have legendary gear eventually. I can have a legendary vessel if I want eventually. And the legendary vessels are much, much more costly in time and resources to level up and gear out and kit out than they would be if they're like 2 tiers down at blue. But blue might be like, I don't know the exact numbers right now, it keeps changing, but it might be like 90% efficient or something. So, or maybe even better than that depending on the stats. I gotta look at them again. I remember like legendaries like last campaign were totally useless. All right, I'm following Biz here, but he's just done a circle. Maybe he needs to shit. Like sometimes you like circle when you have like, no? Okay, I'm not quite sure what we're doing here. I guess I could like listen to my own comms, but then I couldn't talk, so we'll see. All right, I don't know why I'm over here, but I'm apparently gonna kill some. Oh, there's some players. That's why. That's why. All right. Just lost target. So the retaliate right there is from getting stunned. Not quite sure why I'm on this exact target. Why am I lagging here? I just lost all my cooldown charges. Okay, so I'm lagging like a bitch here. I don't know why that was. I need to immediately relog. Let me just... So this is a really annoying, this is probably the #1 reason right now not to play Pit Fighter. I'm not exaggerating. So if you guys see my bars here, this bar is now bugged. I can't see any of my cooldowns. So I'm gonna have to relog real quick to fix that, which is super annoying. Yeah. Am I risking anything in PvP as the aggressor? I mean, do you mean if I attack someone with an empty inventory, am I risking anything? Not really. There's things like cooldown timers for resurrection. So like if it was more important, like if it was around an objective, my dying and not being able to be available for the fight has some cost to it. There's damage to my gear for fighting. There's things like that, but there's no like direct penalty. Like I'm not gonna lose my gear if I die as an attacker, for example. Yeah. Okay. Yes, exactly. Hungry is definitely elaborating on what I'm saying here, which is the cost of you doing something more useful than just dying is certainly a penalty of some sort. Okay. Wilbur, do you know the Pit Fighter hack? Do you know how to get dominance as a Pit Fighter? I can show you how to get dominance as a Pit Fighter if you want. Okay. All right, we got content. We got ERAD again. All right, my cooldowns are not fixed as I stupidly didn't restart the client. I actually just logged in and out. So this is most of what you do as a pit. Wish you could actually run towards someone and then get pushed back. This is why I need massive cleave. Come on, can I please see my cooldowns? Okay, are we still playing here? Looks like we are. So that guinea survived, which is kind of annoying. Can't see my cooldowns, which is fucking annoying. Oh, I don't have it. Okay, I don't have my ult right now, which I can't tell. Don't have both abilities I just reached for there. I'll actually lose this fight from that too. Actually gonna die here too. Okay. I need to actually have cooldowns for that, which is kind of frustrating, but I guess I'll show you death animation here. Okay. Alright. Where are we going from this? Let me find out where I can actually res. Died last still. Yeah, it would have been nice to be able to see any of my cooldowns. It's difficult to manage a class with is based entirely around like short cooldowns when you can't see any of them. So that's slightly frustrating. But I did relog right before the fight, but I forgot that that particular bug requires you crash the client out entirely, not just relog. Okay, let me take a look. Check DMs. I don't have DMs enabled, Wilbur. And you'd have to. Oh, you do. DM in Discord. That works. Okay. Thanks. I'll maybe check that out. Monitor off. Sure, I'm resing right now. Okay. Looks like melee could use a snare or root. I have a 5-second snare. I have a snare that is on a 5-second cooldown. That's a ranged snare. It doesn't matter. It's that you spend most of your time getting dodged away from, getting knocked down, or getting slowed yourself. That my uptime on targets are still super low, and especially since the targets that I really want to be on, I'm entirely useless attacking like a plate wearer for that, like the duration of that. It's not useful. So the most useful thing I can do is get my aura out, get my buffs out on my team if I can, and pressure their squishies like that guinea. And if he's blinking around like that, running directly from me at 5% HP, that's okay. That's not, as I said, the pit is not a super phenomenal fucking class to have in larger group fights. And honestly, the larger they get, the kind of less excited I get by them, except having one for the aura. So. All right, I need to relog because I can't see shit on my stuff. So let me just restart this real quick. No cooldowns, feels bad. That's a pit specific bug right now. I think a couple other classes are getting it, but the pit gets it like non-stop. It's amazing. Yeah. All right. Yeah, sitting on a healer is okay. Although I generally find the pressure output versus plate healing is I don't mind doing that later. And I don't mind split DPS sometimes, because sometimes you can kill healers by split DPSing. So, oh yeah, I can maybe walk through what's going on. All right. I just got a where's filthy question. Let me go answer that. Yeah, I had no cooldowns for that entire fight. I'd relogged right before it, and when I relogged, I didn't crash the client, so I fought that with no cooldowns. It's pretty exciting. But I did get to show getting kited as a pit fighter, so win-win. Right back. I need an invite when I get in. I'm logging in now. All right. Can you get an aura strong enough that people really want to focus you? Well, that's the point, right? The answer is not really, because you're still focusing a pit, but I can make it more detrimental if they ignore me, essentially. Okay. Respawning is the opposite of a corpse run? Yeah. Respawning is opposite of a corpse run. So we went back to the temple here because the temple is nice and close, and I just essentially flew back to the temple and resurrected. You fly as a crow when you're dead. But depending on where you're at, like if you're trying to accomplish an objective, you might, for example, one of the advantages Defender has is that if they have a fort or keep, they might have a respawn statue in their fort or keep. And when you're attacking an area, you might want to take a respawn outpost in that zone so that you have the ability to respawn closer to the objective. Because running back is a big deal. Like if it was a larger fight and I died early in that fight, I might be in a position where half my team you know, my team continues to fight without my presence there because they've lost a player. It's one of the ways you take something out is by killing their people fast enough that they can't hold it anymore. All right. Centaur, yeah, the armor break push. Yeah, I don't really like the Centaur push very much at the moment. It's certainly better for groups. If you're running like archers and stuff, sure, the Vone is fine. It's not a bad ability at all, but I don't like it for small gang because I tend to push my fucking target out of melee range. Thank you, Ondris, for the 26 months. Okay. Like right now, I'm running Shieldbreaker, which is a AoE, or it's a group-wide armor debuff, or excuse me, group-wide armor penetration buff. But I don't have anyone in my group, so it's just me. And like, yeah, it helps me a little bit, but it's not massively useful for me. I mean, it's okay for me. Yeah. Do any classes have access to Resurrection? Yeah, a lot of classes have access to Resurrection. Resurrection, there's a couple things with that. It's a long channel. It's easily interrupted. It blocks your bar. So right now, if I use an ability, so if I use Leap, for example, I'm in combat right now, I'm mounted. So if I use Leap right now, it's on my bar and I can't remove it until it's done cooling down. So I can't remove that from the bar. And Resurrection is like a 5-minute cooldown or something, or 10-minute cooldown right now. So if you do use Resurrection on your bar, it takes a bar slot, and the bar slots are valuable in this game. If you look at like this character itself, like, I don't know, what is this? This is 8x2, so there's 16 abilities here, and I only have 8. So I can only use half of the abilities I have available to me. The other thing is when you resurrect somebody, they come in with a debuff on them that makes them extremely squishy and do nothing for a full minute. So there is value in resurrecting, especially if you win a fight and you don't have access to a respawn outpost close to you, but it can also be very difficult to actually pull off in the heat of battle. It's not interruptible anymore. I didn't know that. Interesting. Would I advise an MMO newbie to get into this game, or is it a bit complicated to start with? I'm going to tell you right now, if this is your first MMO, it's going to ruin other MMOs for you, because other MMOs are a lot less PvP oriented, and they're inevitably inferior to PvP MMOs. So yeah, if you're looking for an MMO, remember that MMOs tend to be time sinks. They tend to be large time sinks, and they tend to, oftentimes you can do more the more time you put into them. So if you're good at time management and like that type of play, well, I think this is, for me, this is what I'm hoping, fingers fucking crossed, is the next really good PvP MMO coming up. And the fact I put this much time into it means it has enough content for me right now to stay engaged, although sometimes that's better than other times. But I ideally am hoping that this becomes a really big thing, right? So we'll see. The answer is maybe. So. All right. So I just noticed something. I don't actually like running this ability, and I didn't know I had it there. I slot it when I'm soloing. I want that on my bar. This is actually a really important ability for pit fights, for group pit fighting. Okay, let's walk through this class real quick. So Plateware uses, oh, my fucking mace is at 26 too. All right, I gotta get a mace. So, because I'm about to lose my equipped gear. How's the rest of my gears? The rest of my gear fucked. 180, 146, 418, 380. Kinda. So also, there's no mount graphic in the game yet, so I'm technically mounted. You can see it in the top right. So these are the buffs in the top right of my screen. So this is actually a mount, believe it or not. It just looks like I'm a very large man running very fast, which I'm okay with. Can live with that. Yeah. My team is telling me they're zoning. I feel like such a fucking scrub right now. I'm actually very impressed with Sesh right now. Where's my fucking... Need a weapon. Need a fucking weapon. That one? Alright. Mounted yourself. Let me just find out. Weapon was that 20 durability. What zone? Okay. Alright. So at the moment, my weapon will break in combat. If I equip my worst weapon, I will not have the issue. If I die right now, I drop what's in my inventory, right? So I'll lose my weapon. Do I get anything for a friend referral code? I do not currently have an affiliate code with this company, so I don't get anything. But you guys get a discount. You can use Galvia's code. I think we have a command in channel. I don't remember what the fucking command was, which is slightly awkward. But maybe someone who watched Billy set that up and use it could tell us, because I'd like to get you guys discounts if this is something you're interested in. Okay. What other classes I've been playing recently? I spent a lot of time on my pit. I spent a little bit of time on an alpha, but the fucking nerf to ultimate, like multiple charge ultimates, has been really, really brutal for the alpha, and I spent a lot of time on a confessor. I don't think I'm playing anything else actively right now. I have a duelist, but I haven't really been messing around with it. I haven't really set it up yet, and I have a I've been thinking about rolling an Earthkeeper, which I'm kind of excited about. So I know alpha is fucking hard mode right now. Melee is kind of hard mode, and alpha is like super hard mode. So all right. So let's talk some mechanics right now. So I kind of need this. Maybe I'll throw this up as a poll. All right. All right, so let me know. Where's my fucking poll? I need to start this. There it is. And do I have a poll in this one yet? No. Okay, this is an. Oh, it's fine. There it is. Okay. Let me know if you want some explanation about the pit, or if you don't need it. I don't know what the percentage of people here who are players tuning in from my kind of stuff, my streams, or percentage of players who are Crowfall players who are tuning in because it's a Crowfall stream. You can vote in chat. I'll just give it a few minutes. All right, I need to charge alt. I don't really want to not charge alt here. Yeah, Earthkeeper looks a lot of fun. It looks like a very interesting to play healer. Thank you, Carcicia, for 39 months. Definitely my viewers here. Well, we'll see. We'll see what people want to explain. Get the explanation of what the class does. Why is Cog dying? You're my viewer. Damn right, Triple P. It's pure ownership, right? Also, hey man. A little split. I want to build alt. I'm sure he won't mind if I just punch a cow, right? I'll do it right on this hunger too, so I got out of food like instantly. I don't know what I had in my inventory prior to that. I'm sure it wasn't very interesting. Okay. Hey V. Okay. Why am I punching a cow? Well, there's many reasons. Some of them to do with my personal belief system, some of them to do with how annoying cows are in this game, but mostly because I need alt, which is the Q button on the far right of my screen. That's currently at like 70% of my first one. But it's called Soul Power. Your ultimate runs off that. It's a separate resource from your primary class resource, so it doesn't run on Rage for me. And it lets me do something very powerful. So having those prior to going into a fight is really useful. Okay, we have contact again. This is Corvus Citadel. Alright, and I'm just going to try to sit on their shit in the back. This is an archer Duffy here. So that was another guild, not one we fought yet today. Okay. Okay. Why was I punching as opposed to hitting it with my staff? Because I want as much time on top of it as possible before it dies, and my resource generates as quickly for that. All right, how are we on voting for what we want out about this? Oh, we'd like a pit fighter explain. Okay, I can do that. Cool. Not a lot of interest one way or the other, but that's fine. All right. So All right, Pit Fighter is a melee support class, essentially. It does kind of low to medium damage. There's a lot of unique mechanics on the Pit Fighter. My ultimate, well, let's kind of start, we'll go right to left here. Q is my ultimate. This is Invincible Warrior. It's a huge barrier. Barrier is essentially an absorb. So I get a 10, so I have 10,000 health, and when I pop this ability, I gain a 10,000 point barrier that lasts for 5 seconds. I can do that twice. When I have full charges on my ult, I can do it twice. My ult charges on to, it costs 500 soul power to do, and you can have up to 1,000 soul power banked. The ability that's ticking under Z is Troubadour. The ability itself is called Requiem, but it's a part of the support platform here. So it runs an AoE damage buff for my team. Anyone close to me gets a debuff on them that makes them take more damage from my team. 3 is my leap, which is this thing, which generates rage for me. It's also a gap closer, etc. It's okay. It's not amazingly good, but it gives me one more gap closing ability as a melee. Mouse 3 is the ability you're gonna see me spamming all the time. It throws a little hurlbat, a little projectile. That projectile, whatever it hits, gets slowed. It's on a 5-second cooldown. It uses rage to cast. It's a pretty weak ability. Doesn't hit very hard, but it lets me again try to keep targets in range so I don't get kited to death on them. 2 and 1 are warrior mechanic. They share another resource, also not rage, also not soul power. It has a 30-second internal global cooldown internal cooldown on that. And basically what it lets me do is I can cast 2 of them every 30 seconds. And they do one of 2 things. One of them either puts a barrier on me and heals me, or the other one gives me a form that makes me do more damage. So in that fight, I use the number 2, which is a damage buff. So I can sit, and because I'm not a target that gets picked on very often, I can spend resources to sit in a damage stance. So basically do more damage with that. C is a group buff that increases the armor penetration for physical damage. So I'll probably be using that on cooldown. It makes me do more damage. It applies a buff to me. You can see it on the top right. It's called Reveal Weakness. It's a 45-second cooldown with a 30-second buff. That's a buff for my team, again, as part of the support platform. X is my major damage ability. It's called Massive Cleave. It has a secondary ability that I can toggle off of it, which gives me a barrier. This doesn't do shit for damage, even though it's an AoE. It's just a kind of an emergency barrier when I'm being kited to death. I mostly, again, use that in solo. I probably wouldn't even bother with that if I was building this as a group fighter, but this is not supposed to be for... This is okay. This is like 7 or 8, but or maybe 6 or something. But it's not really what I would be running in a group specialized build. E here is my primary damage ability, or my biggest damage ability, although it's not my most consistent one. It's a combo ability, so it has 2 parts. I can the first part is just damage, and then it's a cone. The second part is a big bleed. I can alternate. Instead of a big bleed, I can do a suppress. A suppress is a form of CC. And it is AoE, but it's point blank AoE. So it's not, it's a cone, point blank cone. So it's kind of not so great for really anything. And the cooldown on that ability tends to work out that you pretty much never want to use the suppress ability if you can. How skill intensive are the fights? The fights matter. How you press your buttons and where you position matters a lot. Some classes more than others. Your leadership for that matters a lot. So the target call is being made from your leadership. The decisions to engage, where to engage, and how to engage, all that matters a lot. I think the game is fairly decently skillful. There may not be, I'm not sure how massively skill capped the individual classes are. Maybe some are better than that than others. But particularly the Confessor and the Pit seem to have a fairly low skill ceiling in my opinion. But a lot of the skill comes with the not so much pressing the buttons as the positioning. So it's fairly easy to get to a point of decent competence for pressing the buttons. It's a lot harder to be like, okay, here's where we need to be moving as a group on a map. Here's where we need to be engaging from. Here's the type of thing that we're really trying to be paying attention to in this. It's a little bit different for that. Can I briefly explain retaliation? Sure. When I get knocked down, you probably saw it happen a number of times in that fight. When I get CC'd in some way, I have... All right, so first off, retaliate takes